Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm going to be going over a couple current events, probably break it into two videos. The first video, which probably will be this one, will be the Trump conviction and my perspective on it. And the other one is going to be about farmland and some of the problems that are taking place and where I think this is going. So before we start, please make sure that you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 YouTube channels in the description of this video. So please click and subscribe to all 4 channels. I also have Rumble, Bitchute, and Brighteon. So please follow me on those channels as well. I've noticed that notifications to individuals are delayed from YouTube. So it's very important to actually follow my work on all the channels to make sure that you get the latest updates. If you could, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and donate either through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. Those links are on the homepage at the very bottom, so it's very easy to help support my work that way, especially for ones that are overseas that can't purchase my products because I don't ship overseas. So, in addition, you can also be a paid member on my Patreon channel. There are different tiers. The higher tier levels, tier 2, 3, and 4, you get different access to also my medical lectures that cover actually pulmonology and immunology. You can also purchase my lecture series. You get the PDFs and all of the videos for $50 if you purchase it on my store, either the pulmonology module or the immunology module. I uploaded the very first lecture. The first lecture for the immunology module started today, which is June 3rd. And every business day, I'll be uploading a new lecture for you. You get PDFs and videos if you purchase it on my website. When you purchase on my website those lectures, you'll get a password that'll allow you to log in, and you can watch the videos multiple times. You can download the PDFs multiple times. So, please, you get a lot of information for only $50 in pulmonology, and if you purchase the module for immunology. So with that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and those are great ways to get informed, to help support my work, and become more knowledgeable in your health. So what I'd like to do is start with the conviction by Donald Trump. That conviction was on Thursday, and I want to just give you my take on it. I was watching it on the my phone when I had the news announcement, and I was a little surprised that the conviction was guilty. I was kind of hoping that it would be a hung jury or it would be not guilty. But as everyone knows, that this jury pool, New York, very anti-Trump, the judge, very anti-Trump, the district attorney, very anti-Trump. It wasn't as if they were really trying a case. They were trying to pin something on the donkey, all right? They were trying to pin something on Trump to hinder him from running in the 2024 election. So the stack was definitely against Trump. When I went to so I had an event at the Harbor Club during that day, the conviction came up, and I was there. They have some televisions in one of the rooms, and I was watching on in the television. They have CNN and they have local news, and so it's just CNN was talking about the conviction, and there was that I was waiting for the event to start, and people at the bar were watching. A lot of times when people are waiting for an event, they'll have a drink or just meet people at the bar, and there were several groups at the bar that were cheering, and I found this disconcerting. Independent on if someone is pro-Trump or was anti-Trump, or if you're pro-Republican or pro-Democrat, right? There was this sense of loss of liberty. There was this sense of a judicial system being used against citizens. And there was this weird kind of feel in the room where you have educated people, some of them lawyers. I was literally sitting next to, a prominent lawyer, and the feeling in the room was, well, they got him, he's guilty. He's a evil person. And, he was judged by, if you notice on CNN, they're saying a lot like he was judged by his peers, and he had his day in court and all this stuff. And then fast forward to about a day later, and then Biden says that anyone that thinks that this was unfair, is that's un-American. I'm paraphrasing what Biden said, but it was basically you need to accept this and don't ask any questions. Meanwhile, he'll say something like, well, if you are against this verdict, then you're really against democracy and our rule of law. But when the Democrats don't like on how the Supreme Court rules, they want to either stack the deck and put more justices that are liberal on the bench, or they want to circumvent the Supreme Court, or when there is a conservative judge being confirmed, they want to harass them in their house, or they get up on stage or on the steps of Congress and say that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. So when the verdict is in their favor, meaning the Democrats, they love the court. When it's not in their favor, they literally want to dismantle it. There is this feel that I had in the room at the Harvard Club, that a lack of respect for the institutions, a lack of respect for Congress, the lack of respect for the White House, the executive branch, a lack of respect for the judicial branch, and not realizing that what they can do to Trump, they will be able to do to everyday citizens. There was a phrase back when the censorship on YouTube just started. I don't know if it was in 2016 or 2017 when this all happened with Alex Jones, but they censored him and he was kicked off of multiple platforms. And there was a phrase saying that Alex Jones, if they can do it to Alex Jones with the censorship, then they'll be able to do it to you. And then shortly after, the crisis in 2020 happened, and many people that were trying to inform the public about different aspects of the crisis and warning people were censored. Channels were blown up. I had 2 channels that were blown up. And they are still, even though some people can still post, the reach, because of the changing of the algorithm, the reach that individuals have is far less compared to the pre-COVID era. So you still don't have reach. You have freedom of speech, but you don't have reach. So people are still being censored, and the freedom of speech is still being curtailed. But that's a different topic. But the point here is that if they could censor Alex Jones, then they'll be able to censor everybody. All right. The same thing. If they can convict, and no one really knows what the crime is for Donald Trump, with some weird instructions like, just have a smorgasbord of different charges and mix it all together. And, even if you don't have a unanimous vote for a particular charge, because there were 34 charges, that it doesn't matter. You can just mix it all together and it will be viewed as a unanimous vote. That doesn't seem constitutional. Now, Mark Levin goes into more detail about the constitutionality or lack thereof of what was going on in the court. And and I'm not a legal scholar. I don't want to be a legal scholar, but there are it seems as though there are many different amendments to the Constitution that were violated for Trump in the Trump trial for these 34 convictions for porn star money. Think about it. Let's just sit back. All right. Trump is convicted of a crime in New York who hates Trump, by a judge who hates Trump, by a district attorney that took on a case and, basically ran on this idea before taking the case that he was going to take down Trump. So he was already pre-charged in his mind by the district attorney before even Bragg became district attorney. So it just seems like everything was stacked, right? And, I guess there were, the First Amendment rights violated, the Sixth Amendment rights are violated. I think it was also the 14th Amendment rights are violated. But I'm not a legal scholar. I could be slightly off on the number here. But there were at least 4 different amendments to the Constitution for the Bill of Rights that seem to have been violated, and there are subsections within those Bill of Rights that were violated for a particular item, like the Sixth Amendment. All right. So, but the point here is that, without getting into all the details of what amendments were violated in this case for Trump, but that you step back and you look at it. Okay, you had the deck stacked against Trump for this trial, and that this is weaponizing the judicial branch, and that if you have a Democratic Party weaponizing the judicial branch, then what's going to happen is that, as an average citizen who can't afford high-powered lawyers or be able to go through all these different lawsuits, you succumb to the pressure. And what happens is then now it turns into kind of this Mao revolution kind of thing that's taking place. All right, this kind of CCP communist takeover, this socialistic communist takeover run by the Democratic Party. Now, there are going to be some people that listen to this channel that are Democrat and that would disagree. But if you look at the history of the Democratic Party, they were not for minorities. They were actually, they gave birth to the KKK. They were, for Jim Crow. They were for, many. It almost seems to me that the Democratic Party, from its inception, has played dirty politics, and that with that, we, are now seeing the weaponization of certain branches of government against the people. And we're starting to lose confidence of our institutions, independent on if you're conservative or a liberal. People are starting to not trust the system, right? Especially the judicial system. But it was sad to see people at the club cheering on the conviction, not realizing that if you happen to be against a particular whim of the state, a particular whim of the political party in power, then they could weaponize something against you, and you potentially could have a similar outcome in court. So Trump basically did this. Okay, let me give you an example. Trump paid a porn star for $130,000 and booked it as a legal expense. Wasn't hiding it, right? And they were saying that's election interference through the court system of, through some imagination of some sort of laws and logic of state law. But this was a federal case, a federal election, and it's not, it doesn't seem as though the state had jurisdiction, but it went through anyways. All right. And the legal scholars and even probably the participants in this probably knew that this wasn't going to, that it was a Hail Mary pass and it probably wouldn't work, but it did work for them. But it may get reversed in appeal, but it doesn't matter because it's all about politics and to try to tarnish Trump and try to confuse some of the voters that are on the fence that, well, he's a convicted felon and he can't, run for president, or I'm not going to vote for him or whatever, even though it's probably going to be reversed, but the damage is done. And that was the strategy. All right. They can do something similar to you if you don't follow suit. If you disagree, if you don't take their mandate, if you don't do their mandate, then they could prosecute you for something. This kind of started with the Patriot Act. All right. Now, I use the delineation for the Patriot Act because of just my generation. I'm sure that you can pick a different point in time, but the Patriot Act is kind of like this overreach of the state, the administrative state, the national security state, where if you don't do certain things, you're unpatriotic and therefore you may be a terrorist and we need to watch you. All right. You see this, that if you donated to Trump's campaign, you may be considered a right-wing extremist. You need to be watched. See? So there's this, the administrative state has ballooned out so much that if someone goes against the administrative state, they will try to demonize someone, hurt their career, or literally prosecute them in a court of law. But unfortunately, it's stacked. So another problem with the administrative state and the national security state is that there are things called entrapment. And you have FBI and CIA operations, in protest situations, trying to create havoc, and then only to round up the people they were targeting. Usually in modern times, it's been these so-called right-wing, activists. They try to round them up and then prosecute them, but it's an entrapment. It's like through the CIA and through the FBI. Okay, so going back to Trump, Trump is convicted of paying a porn star $130,000 supposedly to uh, what's the term that they use? Uh, influence the election. All right. Okay. But Hillary Clinton's campaign paid for a fake dossier about P-gate and all of the, connections supposedly with Russia and Trump, which ended up being fake, and that the CIA and the FBI was tied to it, and other international secret service agencies like MI6. Okay. Now, why wasn't the Hillary Clinton campaign and all the people that were involved in that prosecuted for election interference for 2016? Because obviously that fake dossier was to try to convince people not to vote for Trump. That was election interference. Not paying $130,000 to a porn star and putting it on your financial books is a legal expense. What about how Biden's administration tried to hide the Hunter Biden laptop and all of the nefarious activity that laptop proves, with payments with subsidiaries and shell companies and getting 10% cut for the big guy? They try to bury it and try to affect the election. Isn't that a crime? So why did they selectively pick Trump and not Hillary and Biden? Because what it is the administrative state wants a takeover. They don't want freedom of the Constitution. They want to tear. The Democratic Party wants to tear up the Constitution. Now, there is an argument to say that during war, George Bush also wanted to, do away with the Constitution. This is getting scary when you have a group out there, independent, Democrat or Republican, that finds it expedient for them to do away with the rights of the Constitution, the federal Constitution. All right? There's obviously state constitutions too, but the federal Constitution supersedes it. All right. But what's happening, and as Mark Levin has explained very articulately, way better than I'll be able to, because he's a lawyer. But the thing is that, once they are ratified by the state, that the federal Constitution was ratified, they are obliged by following due process. And they can't create laws at the state level to try to nullify constitutional freedoms at the federal level. So what's happening is that there is a takeover, slow takeover, trying to use these blue states as a means to get at political opponents and write laws that are actually really unconstitutional, or interpret laws that are unconstitutional. Most people would have never taken this case. Most people with a right mind and a love for country would not have prosecuted Donald Trump for a $130,000 porn star payment that was legitimately written as a legal expense. And what's happening is that the lady of justice, where it's applying, the scarves around her eyes, and there's a balance that she's holding in her hand. Justice should be balanced, and justice should be, quote, blind. All right. Justice was not blind in this case. It was bias. They were gunning for a conviction. They were trying to tarnish a political opponent because that political opponent is shining a light. I don't know if he's going to be able to dismantle. I doubt he'll be able to dismantle, but he's shining a light on the nefarious activity of an administrative state, of hyperglobalism, and of the national security state getting too big. They don't like that. So they want to demonize him and say that he's undemocratic and that he's a dictator and he's going to blow up the world and all that. We are closer to nuclear detonation in a world environment, in a war environment under Biden than under Trump. We're closer to World War III because of Biden, not because of Trump. We have unstable prices. We have problems with our inflation because of the policies of Biden, not because of Trump. We have out of control spending in Washington, D.C., not because of Trump, but because of Biden. So when people like Robert De Niro, right before the conviction, it was the day before, he was saying, he was trying to demonize Trump, saying that he's a dictator and he's going to blow up the world and all this stuff. But what it is that you have these people that just hate Trump. This Trump derangement syndrome. Orange man is bad, from how, and this Hollywood obsession of how bad Trump is. But the reality is that there is this takeover of our institutions by these socialists, and they're willing to throw away the Constitution to get their way. But the problem is that once you do that, once you throw away that constitutional right, only the people that are in power are going to remain in power. And we're going to lose our way of government. And we don't want to go down that road. A state doesn't have the power to find ways to nullify the rights of a citizen of the United States. The state doesn't have that right to nullify the federal constitutional rights. And that's what they were doing. Due process did not happen for Donald Trump at that court with the 34 convictions. I mean, no one even really understands what the crime is. And we don't even know what the sentencing is. And then there's this disrespect that I noticed over at the Harvard Club of just the institution of the presidency, the executive branch, and the office of the presidency. And so it turns into this Game of Thrones kind of concept. We don't want to go down this road. Oh, it's so funny. But it's not funny. It's not funny when this is then the erosion of the constitutional freedoms of the little people, where if you don't obey for a particular health mandate, like forced inoculations, or if you don't, let the state dictate to your child on how they should be raised, and you fight back, then you must be an extremist, and therefore you must be in prison. This is communist bullshit. And conservatives and even liberals, if they really want to maintain the rule of law and maintain our constitutional freedoms, we all need to stand up. Because just like what Alex Jones said, if you don't stand up for your constitutional freedoms, if they can shut down the freedom of speech for Alex Jones, then they'll be able to shut down the freedom of speech for you. And that's exactly what happened during 2020. And I have been a victim of that. And many, many others that have important information to share have been also a victim of on top of, people have been harmed from the crisis that we went through. And we had officials, government officials, lying to the public, and they were on the take. They were on the take, and they were part of this administrative state. Now, there are people that try to make the comparison between the United States government, especially post-World War II, and the Nazi Party or Nazi Germany. And there are similarities, especially when you have this, the outgrowth of the administrative state, this national security state. But I would like to think, maybe wrongfully, but I would like to think that there are enough people in my country, in the United States of America, in all of the states, all 50 states, there's enough people out there that want to protect the Constitution and the rule of law and to hold the Union together. It's better to have the Union to survive and to try to, over time become a more perfect Union, as Lincoln said, than to fracture. You look at the history of countries, the long arc, like Rome, like France, what was happening in the Byzantine Empire, even, what was happening with some even in Egypt, in ancient Egypt. What happens is that there is a consolidation of land and of power. And then there is, then eventually over time, there's a fracturing and an erosion. And then there's the decline and the destruction of that empire. If we have states that secede, and there's been some talk of California potentially seceding, or Texas seceding, or even Texas has the right to actually break up into 4 different states, which could change kind of some of the dynamics in Congress. But the point here is that to try to maintain the Union, because if you don't maintain the Union, then that is just another crack in the empire, the American empire, and we'll go down a road where the United States will no longer be. How long that takes, I don't know. With technology, it may be faster than what happened with the Roman Empire. Or perhaps with technology, it slows it down because we see the effects of it quicker. We don't know. But the United States doesn't have to be a declining empire, but yet it is. It is declining. And it's fracturing. It's fracturing socially, and it's fracturing between the states. And some of these, quote, hard blue states, deep blue states, deep Democrat states, are trying to erode the constitutional freedoms of its citizens. And saying that the state, this administrative state, is going to tell you how to live your life, how to raise your child, what to eat, how to see life. And again, it goes back to God, country, and family. If you have an administrative state that wants to demonize the family and, say, you can have drive-through abortions, well, that's another brick in the foundation of America that's cracking. If you want to demonize God, people's affinity towards religion, that's another crack in the foundation of society. And then when you erode the Union and the ideals of the country, then that's the third crack in the foundation. So this God, country, and family concept is really important. You don't have to be super religious, all right? But the thing is that if you demonize these, you don't have a healthy society. So I am disheartened by seeing on how people cheered for the conviction of a former president of the United States that may go to prison. This is something that should not be happening to a president or a former president, especially when it's politically motivated. And it doesn't, if you ask the average person, they probably don't really understand why he would be even convicted. What's the crime? Paying a porn star off? Meanwhile, it's selective prosecution where the Lady of Justice is not blind, but is looking, and the balance is not evenly weighted. It's biased with its weights. They didn't prosecute Hillary Clinton, nor did they prosecute Biden, Joe Biden, with what's going on with fake dossiers and illegal payments through shell companies. This is a problem. And so if you look at, all right, yes, there's corruption on the Republican side, but recently some deep corruption that is going on the Democratic, especially the Democratic Party side. We all just want our country to be strong, prosperous, so we can live in peace, in security, and with freedom, and to have opportunity for us and our future generations. I think all sane Americans want that. Now, not everybody in America is sane. There are some that are insane, but most people, that's what they want. And I just think that what they did was just wrong. It's disrespectful of the Constitution, and it's creating an environment where it's Jerry Springer 24/7 on cable and on YouTube. And it's not funny. This is serious. Where if you can imprison a former president or even a current president for trumped up charges and not have the judicial system fair, then that's a miscarriage of justice. And if that miscarriage of justice can happen at the presidential level, then it can happen at the little people level much easier than at the presidential level or former presidential level. So when someone cheers, they're literally cheering for an administrative state to actually throw away your constitutional freedoms, and how a state can basically create a situation in the courtroom where a jury has no other choice but for conviction. Now, what surprises me is the jury, that there wasn't one person in the jury that said this is wrong. They should have done that, but they didn't. Now, maybe they were scared or whatever, I don't know. But it tells you on how the Democratic Party works when there is a conservative judge being nominated for the Supreme Court, and they will demonize that individual, male or female, black or white, and they will have a crowd of individuals harassing them. And it's getting worse every year. So we as citizens need to step back and say enough is enough, and this is not going to be tolerated. Now, hopefully in the appeals process, Trump will get vindicated, but it'll probably be after the election. So even through this conviction, they have literally tried to influence the election. Bragg should be on trial for trying to influence a federal election. So I know a lot of people have anger or euphoria towards Bragg and the judge and the jury and the Democratic Party and all this, depending on if you want them to convict Trump or not want them to convict Trump. All right. But there's also this issue of the erosion of the constitutional freedoms of the former vice president. What they just did, they can do to you. If they feel as though you're an enemy of the state, they will go after you somehow, some way. That is against our federal constitution. Now, unfortunately, we have people that aren't willing to fight for their freedoms. And, we're probably going to see a slow erosion of these freedoms over time and the fall of our empire. And it's okay to say an American empire. You don't have to be apologetic. All right. I'm sure the Romans weren't apologetic. Now, before I continue, let me, do a little bit of a commercial from the store, just to take a break here. But please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the very high quality supplements and health products that I offer. I offer very, very high quality supplements and health products. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description. I have a structural nano silver toothpaste that's way better than anything that Alex Jones has. All right. And this will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, neutralize pathogens, reduce the inflammation on your gum. And with proper oral hygiene, you're going to reduce cardiovascular disease and the chances for valvular disease. All right. So please go to my store and get this toothpaste. It has no fluoride in it. Fluoride is bad for you. Make sure you filter your water. Fluoride makes you stupid. All right. Literally makes you stupid. So go to my store and get the toothpaste, and it will help with not just your oral hygiene, but your heart health. It's the best toothpaste that you can get. Get a few tubes of this for your household, and it'll help to support my work. In addition, get the Max 14 or Max 35. Take a teaspoon of it a day, swish it in your mouth for about 20 seconds, gargle with it, swallow it. All right? Teaspoon a day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day. What does it do? It helps to boost up your immune system and neutralize pathogens. It disrupts the glycoproteins. Resveratrol, really important as an antioxidant, and it helps to get rid of senesced cells. By getting rid of senesced cells, you are getting rid of the cells that are building up toxins, and you're getting rid of those low telomere cells. And in tissue that can regenerate, most tissue, we have some sort of adult stem cell, some sort of basalator that can regenerate. Not all tissues like this. And regeneration is different for different tissues. But by getting rid of the senesced cells, you're going to be stimulating those basal layers to produce newer cells. And so the average telomere length in the tissue, when you do this regularly, will actually show that you're having longer telomeres. And by doing that, your cells actually are younger based on telomere length. So chronologically, you are a certain age, but biologically, you're younger. So, and that's the reason why it is so important also to take a very strong antioxidant. By taking a very strong antioxidant like C60, this will soak up those free radicals and reduce that stress in the cell and boost up your mitochondrial health and your ATP, which is a major energy source. You can get this in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration on my store. You can get it with avocado or extra virgin olive oil or MCT coconut oil. You take a teaspoon of this a day, take it every day. By taking it every day, you're soaking up those free radicals and you're slowing down the aging process and boosting up your immune system. Another structural nanosilver that I have, which is a 30 ppm, is the silver solution. So you can also, I have 2 different brands. I have either the Max 14 or Max 35, or you can get the silver solution at 30 ppms. I have a lot of structural nanosilver soaps, different types of soaps. So I have the oatmeal spice. These are very high quality, smell great. So get a few bars of these for your household. I also have it in charcoal tea tree. This one is lemongrass. Get a couple bars for your household. You'd be impressed with the high quality of these soaps. Lavender and peppermint. So please go to the store and get those soaps to help support my work. We are in an allergy season. All right. I noticed by traveling back and forth between New York and Boston that, the pollen is different. So I noticed a little bit of a tingling in my throat, because of the allergens in the air in Boston and in Cambridge. So best way to kind of mitigate that is to get the lozenges or the drops that I have on my store. All right. Because of in certain areas of the country, there's a lot of rain, and then there's, an uptake in pollen. A lot of people are complaining about allergies. So please go to the store and get the lozenges and the drops. You can get it in elderberry zinc. This is a very popular one. This is in a 21 count. I also have blueberry drops in a 100 count and honey and lemon in a 100 count. So take these right when you start feeling that there's a little bit of an irritation. What it does is it soothes the throat and it neutralizes the pathogens, and helps to mitigate that allergic reaction. In addition, I have structural nanosilver gels in a quick dispenser, so you can carry it in your bag. You put it on your hands, it stays active for 5 hours. You can put it around your mouth, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils, around your ears, and around your eyes. You can also use it as a skincare product. You can put it on your skin, especially your face, right before you go to bed, and then exfoliate in the morning, and you'll notice your skin is tighter and clearer. If you have acne, you can put it on the acne. If you have a cut or an abrasion or a minor burn, you can put this on that wound and it will help to heal it quicker. So this is a dual purpose product. It's very high quality. So please go to my store and get the silver gel. Now, for the ones that purchase the liquids, right, either the Max 14, Max 35, or the silver solution, get this applicator set. It has a nasal spray, a dropper, and a spritzer. So you can carry it in your bag. You can take it to work or, wherever you're going, and it's easy to carry. So, if you're not feeling well and, you want to use the nasal spray, do that. You can use a dropper, or you can even use the spritzer on the back of your throat or even on surfaces. Because again, the structural nanosilver solution, the liquid, will help to neutralize also surfaces, neutralize pathogens on surfaces, not just internal. So it's really important to get one of these applicator sets. So that's, those are some of the products that I have on my store. I'll go through a few more before ending here, but Trump's conviction is problematic, not just for Trump and the election of 2024, but our constitutional freedoms. there is a weaponization of the judicial branch if you become, quote, an enemy of the state. And it's very easy for them to demonize people that don't have money or don't have power. It's difficult for them to demonize people that have power and money, but you have seen it. It had just happened where Trump has money and power, and he was prosecuted for a no crime in New York. And they're going to do the same thing to you. So it's very important to support the Constitution and support people that are being targeted by the administrative state and the national security state. Look at what's happening with Snowden, for example, where the national security state didn't like him telling the American public what they were doing, and they demonized him and took away his constitutional freedoms, and he had to leave the country. Or a journalist like Julian Assange trying to inform the American public and the world at large about the atrocities of the US government. And they demonized him and threw him into confinement without due process. So you have an out of control administrative state. This can't continue. The little people have no recourse. Now, are you going to fight for your constitutional freedoms or just give up? I personally think that people need to start fighting for their constitutional freedoms. Now, how can you do that? Take a page from what they're doing with the whole Palestinian-Israeli conflict, all right? How these liberals, ultra-liberals are protesting on campus or, in the streets, mostly on campus. The professors that are promoting this rhetoric keep on using terms like civil disobedience. Perhaps we need civil disobedience at the city hall level and at the state level all over the country, where you have people that are constitutionalists that want to protect our civil liberties and continually protest nonstop at the state houses and at the city halls of high populated areas, day in and day out, all across the country. Then our politicians are going to start getting worried. But it has to be controlled. And you got to be careful that you don't have entrapment by the FBI and create another kind of January 6th environment. Civil disobedience across the country, day in and day out, at the state houses and at the city hall houses. Of course, I know that the American public won't do that. I've actually had a lot of hope in America during the early days of 2020. Unfortunately, what I was proven wrong with how people will react to protecting their constitutional freedoms. People will not react. People will try to protect themselves and be self-centered. And that was the big, big mistake that I think that Americans during the crisis of 2020 did. Not smart enough to realize that there was an entrapment during the crisis on January 6th. And not realizing that way before January 6th, all through 2020, there were ample opportunities to protest repeatedly every day across the country about fighting the tyranny of the government. Now, fast forward to 2024, and you have an ex-president that has been convicted of no crime, and you still have an American population that is all talk and no action. Everyone's talking about it on X. Everyone's talking on their channels. What are you going to do about it? And if you don't galvanize and go out to the state houses and the city halls of high density areas, you're going to lose your constitutional freedoms, because Congress is not going to react unless you actually are civilly disobedient. That's how we're going to win. And also making sure that each of the elections at the local level are legitimate, that are watched, that are certified and audited, and that there's no funny business going on. So we have to be engaged citizens. And you can't be an engaged citizen by just being a keyboard warrior. Get out in the real world. Because if you don't get out in the real world, then you're nothing. It's important to protect your constitutional freedoms. If you don't, then what happened to Donald Trump will happen to you in 2025, 2026, 2028, 2030, 2035. Next week. Depends on the person, it depends on the situation. But you have an administrative state that's going after dissidents that they view, political dissidents that they view that they need to control. And that is unconstitutional. But they can get away with it if you don't fight back. They can tear off the scarf of the justice, Lady Justice, and stack the balance against people if you don't fight back. The key is civil disobedience through protest every day at all the state houses. And just imagine if that did happen, how that would be projected in the news. But people won't do it because they're lazy, because their freedoms were handed to them at birth. Now, some people, would say that, well, the United States should fall because it's a demon, and it's a vicious empire, and it needs to fall. Some people just hate America. There are other people that don't hate America, but they wouldn't fight for it. And there are other people that would fight for it. Now, it's disrespecting people that served in the military when you're not willing to fight for your freedoms, because they fought to protect the freedoms that you have. So not only are you not fighting for your constitutional freedoms, but you're disrespecting men and women of service and disrespecting the American flag. You need to be an active citizen. And that means civil disobedience at the state and city level every day, 24/7. But you won't do that. There are too many people that just go, someone else is going to do it. And then when those people do, it's such a low concentration, they don't have the power, and then they're demonized, and then the administrative state goes after them. The administrative state can't go after you if everyone is involved. But if it's only a small percentage of the population in a certain region of the country, they will demonize. And my prediction is the American public is too self-centered and too scared about their particular situation to actually protect the country, protect the Constitution, protect civil liberties of the unborn, the ones that will be born later. They don't care. People just don't care, or they're afraid. They'll say they care and they won't do anything. this is not the America that I was born in, and this is not the America that I was you know, raised by my parents to be in. You protect the Constitution. Because if you don't, we all fall. Do you understand this? So going back to what happened at the Harvard Club, you have people that are cheering for a rigged judicial system, not realizing that that will come back to haunt you eventually. You'll be eventually a political dissident, or eventually you'll be no longer needed for the system, and they'll get rid of you either because you're too old or you're not in the right profession or whatever. This is not the America I was raised in, but this is the America that we have right now. So if you see a liberal that wants to cheer on what happened to Donald Trump, tell them it's independent of if you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It's an issue of, are you pro-constitutional freedoms or anti-constitutional freedoms? Do you want a bloated out administrative state that's eroding your constitutional freedoms or not? Do you want the judicial system to give due process, or do you want miscarriage of justice? That's the issue here. And some of those liberals will start to realize that maybe they were wrong. Many of them will want the miscarriage of justice because they want expedience. They see Orange Man bad, and whatever it takes, miscarriage of justice, it doesn't matter. But it does matter because it's against the Constitution. This is so important. But what I have learned from people during the 2020 crisis is that they do nothing other than be in front of a computer keyboard warrior. And they're not galvanizing out in public enough repeatedly at the state and at the city level to stop this bullshit. But there's a critical mass. 100 people in your town can't just do it. It has to be thousands all the time. They have the same kind of dedication that some of these protesters were doing with the whole pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli thing that was going on campus. But it's about freedom of protecting the Constitution. It's fighting for the freedoms of the Constitution. Much different, but it's using the same tactic, and that is civil disobedience. And when it's loud enough, then people start going, oh, okay. See, America is moving toward and I need to do a video on this and articulate it a little better, but a simple broad brush of this is that America is approaching a similar revolutionary themes, motifs, that are very similar to the French Revolution. Fracturing of the country, the haves and the have-nots, or, the nobility and the little people. And, rewriting the Constitution and all this stuff. We have a document, it's called the Constitution at the federal level, that we need to hold dear. We cannot lose that document. Now, why is Dr. Paul Cottrell so passionate about this very concept? All right. I don't know how many great grandfathers, I got to count them, but they're many. All right. One on my father's side, one of those great grandfathers was the signator, one of the signatories of ratifying the Constitution. All right. And he was actually the youngest ratifier of the Constitution, and ended up a House Speaker and served with George Washington. All right. So long pedigree, pre-Revolutionary War and during the Revolutionary War, and the ratifying of the Constitution. All right. Because you had different representatives from the different states ratifying the Constitution. And one of my ancestors were one of those people. Now, I'm getting really tired of seeing liberals shitting on that document that my ancestor signed. All right. Now, most of the keyboard warriors, they came after, right? Or didn't participate in most of the major wars in the United States, like my family has. All right. Now, this isn't, stolen valor or anything. This is a realization that our servicemen and women need to be honored, and we honor them by supporting the Constitution. And there's a benefit to that. We protect our freedoms. That's what it's about. So this issue that happened, this issue that took place with Trump, goes way beyond just the 2024 election, or, orange man bad, get after him. But it's shining a light on this crazy liberal concept of demonizing America, nullifying constitutional freedoms for some sort of expediency that leads to totalitarianism. Now, my ancestors fought for freedom and fought for, a rule of government, self-rule of government. What did your ancestors do? And that might be part of the reason why you don't respond. All right? Maybe you just don't have that affinity. Maybe it's not in your epigenetic history. I don't know. But I do know this. Civil disobedience at the state level and at the city level is what's going to protect our civil liberties. The citizens need to get engaged. And being a keyboard warrior isn't how you do it. You got to be in the real world. It pisses me off on how people will just throw away our Constitution so easily for expedience. It's wrong. It's disrespectful for all the men and women that have served and lost their lives to protect this country. It's disrespectful to the American flag. It's disrespectful to the main document that makes us great, and that is obviously the Constitution. Please help support my work by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and following my protocol and taking the supplements that I've been promoting, like the multivitamin. This is a very high quality multivitamin, easy to digest. You need cofactors, minerals and vitamins that are cofactors that help with the metabolic processes in a cell. If you don't have those cofactors, you're subpar in cell performance. In addition, by taking a multivitamin on a regular basis, you're boosting up your immune system and slowing down the aging process. You're getting healthier. All right. So please take this multivitamin every day with other supplements and proper diet and exercise, and you will improve your health. Lignans. This is a powder. You should be taking this every day. It helps to boost up your immune system. It's for males and females. All right. By taking lignans every day, oh, by improving your immune system, you're actually fighting infection more efficiently and you're not getting as sick as often. And oh, by the way, by having a strong immune system, you're actually fighting cancer. Good night formula. You need 3 cycles of REM sleep on a regular basis to be able to consolidate memory, to get rid of toxins in your central nervous system and in other cells outside the central nervous system. So please take the good night formula if you're not sleeping well. It has tryptophan and melatonin in it. Ashwagandha, important to control your blood glucose levels and brings down inflammation and helps with cardiovascular disease. Vitamin C helps with your skin, especially when you're taking collagen and drinking filtered water. In addition, it'll help to boost up your immune system. You should take it every day, and if you're not feeling well, take a double dose. Turmeric. This is a supplement that you should be taking every day. It will bring down inflammation, and it's also an antioxidant. D3, gene expression cofactor. It also helps to absorb calcium. So please take this every day. Oh, an infected cell? It'll help to go through apoptosis if you take D3. Clarity factor, very important for mental acuity. Take it every day. It'll get rid of the brain fog. A good probiotic. This is a powder. I also have it in tablet form. I take this every day. There's a little scooper in here. You mix it with your food or with water, and it'll help to promote a better gut biome. By having a good gut biome, you're going to have a better communication between your gut and your liver. You're going to have better metabolism, and you're going to be able to improve the communication between your gut and your brain. There is a direct correlation to brain health and gut health. And I have partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've created these bars. These are deodorant bars that are made from very high quality essential oils from the Himalayas. This one is peppermint and tea tree, lavender, and the other one is citrus. So get a couple bars for your home. It's for males and females, very high quality. And oh, by the way, because I believe in dual purpose, because everybody's money is really important and you want to get more bang for your buck, right? This will help to slowly detoxify your body too. So please go to my store and get the health products. I offer a lot. The protocol, the core protocol of this is basically structural nano silver liquids, which is basically like max 35 or max 14, turmeric and ashwagandha, C60, digestive enzymes, and you want to add to that D3, omega-3, and lignans. When you do that all together, you're boosting up your immune system, you're bringing down free radicals, you're slowing down that inflammation, you're neutralizing pathogens, you're boosting up your immune system, and you get healthier. Take my advice. I offer very high quality products that work synergistically and help to improve your well-being. Filtered water, proper supplementation, proper diet and exercise. Don't overdo it. Stretch, do some balancing exercises to activate that cerebellum, and read and write and talk to people. Be an engaged citizen. Don't be a passive, just observer or just a soaking up information. You need to be active, actively learning, and an active participant in our republic. Thank you for listening, and please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is very important. If you don't fight for your constitutional freedoms, the administrative state will use the judicial system for their benefit and cause a miscarriage of justice. And if there's not enough people standing up for fighting their freedoms, no one's gonna protect you when that happens. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.